Are introverts shy? What does the word shy even mean? That's what we're going to be talking about today on the Introvert Experience. What's up, everybody? This is Terrence, aka the Introvert Leader, and we're going to be talking about shyness today. Being an author, I am very big on words, the meaning of words, and understanding really what they mean. In society, a lot of times we throw words around not knowing what they represent at their core. So I want to talk a little bit because a lot of people, when they hear the word introvert, when they hear the word extrovert, there are specific things that trigger in their mind when they hear those. And for introvert, one that comes to mind oftentimes is quiet or shy, those sorts of words. And I know this because I've done surveys of groups that I've spoken to. I've had numerous conversations over now several years doing the work that I do in this space. And there are certain words that you consistently hear when somebody thinks about the word introvert. And one of them is that I've heard is shy, associating introversion with shyness. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that today. So first, let's just read the definition of what shy means. So according to Oxford Dictionary, shy is being reserved or having or showing nervousness or timidity in the company of other people. Okay, and then an example that they give is a sentence, I was pretty shy at school. Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's unpack that for a minute. Being reserved or having or showing nervousness. Okay, so I will say this, depending on the situation with being around people, I may not be the most comfortable. It just depends on the situation. So, example, if I am going to a networking event and I know for a fact there's not going to be anybody there that I know, I can move around that room and I can be okay, but the thought of going to the room, the thought of going to the event, that for me is the part where sometimes I have to get over the hump to get myself to go there. But it's not that I'm afraid of being there. It's not that I'm scared of being there or anything like that. It's more so that I just know I'm not going to know anyone. And for me, when I know that there's at least going to be at least one person there that I know, I'm familiar with, I can converse with, it just makes me going there a lot easier. The initial step of me going, right? And that's just me, right? But I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily nervous about those kind of events. I don't think that's the right word for it with me. It's more so I'm just more comfortable with someone that I know. I mean, I wouldn't say it's tied necessarily to nervousness, but that's just me. Now, the next part says timidity in the company of other people. So just the thought of being timid when you're around other people. I don't think for me that I get timid when I'm around new people or people that I don't know. Some people, if you're listening to this, maybe you do feel timid at times. Maybe you do worry about what you're going to say or your words or what's the conversation going to be like. I would say with me, I more so go into observation mode a lot, especially if I don't know anybody there. Like if I'm at some event and I know I'm not going to know most of the people, I'm going to probably do a lot more listening than I'm going to do talking. But that's just my natural nature anyway. Like I'm very inquisitive about people. I like to learn about people. I'm curious about their story. I'm curious about who they are. And I also like to observe people's energy to see if they're, just to see what kind of person they are. So that's something that I do if it's my first time meeting somebody anyway. So I don't know that I would say I get timid in the company of other people or I get nervous in the company of other people. And I don't know that that necessarily is tied to introversion. I mean, again, this is one of these things, right? Where the word introvert ties to our energy with being alone and how we gain energy from being alone as opposed to an extrovert who gains energy around people. So an extrovert in this situation, somebody would naturally say, oh, well, an extrovert is not shy because according to this definition, they're not nervous or timid being in the company of other people, right? But there's nothing that says that an introvert is nervous or an introvert is timid in the company of other people. It's just that introverts enjoy being alone. It's just that introverts recharge from being alone, right? So again, it's one of these things where I feel like a word like this, shy and the concept of shyness is something that gets lumped in with introversion, and I just don't believe it to necessarily be true.
How do introverts lead in an extroverted world? A world where the loudest voices and the most social people seem to thrive. Well, there's a secret that any introvert can turn into a superpower. That secret is calmness. To learn how to transform your leadership as an introvert, download the Calm Effect today.
Now, I will say that there are different circumstances, right, in different situations, but I wouldn't necessarily tie them in with introversion per se. So, for example, when I was younger, I remember my first crush, the first girl I had a crush on. I was nervous to talk to her, all right? I was timid whenever she would come around because I had a crush on her and I was 11 years old and I did not know what to say to her. Anytime she would come around, I would just freeze up. Like, I didn't know what to say. But I don't think it was because of my personality type. I just think she just made me feel that way. I was 11. I was in love. I didn't know what was going on. I had feelings I was feeling at the time. So some of these things, I would think that an extrovert can feel that too. I would think that if there's a boy out there that has a crush on some girl in his class, I mean, would he only feel nervous about talking to her if he's an introvert? Like, he could be an extrovert and feel nervous too, right? I would think. So there are just so many things that when you begin to unpeel the layers and think through it, don't make sense. To say that, oh, an introvert is shy, they're nervous or timid around people. Well, no, most of the time I'm not nervous or timid around people. A lot of times I either may just not want to be there. I may not like the energy of the people that I'm around. I may be observing the people in the room. I mean, it could be a lot of things going on. It may not have anything to do with me feeling nervous or timid. Or guess what? There are some introverts that may get nervous or timid around new people and in new groups. That may happen as well. I mean, both of these things can be true. But I think to conclude, when I read the definition of the word shyness, and I think about myself as an introvert, and if you think about yourself as an introvert listening to this, I don't see a natural linkage with shyness and introversion. And so don't paint yourself into a corner or put yourself in some box where you allow people to label you as you're just this shy, timid person. Because some of us, I will say as introverts, we will allow some of these labels to get into our head, and that doesn't feed us in a positive way. So if you ever feel like you're being painted into this box or put into this label of what you are, then don't allow that to happen. Don't allow it to happen. You are who you are. And so just lean into who you are. Like, all of the labels and anyone calling you shy or quiet or any of those things, that does not define you. All right. So just wanted to talk about that today. There's a lot of these words out here and a lot of labels that I feel like are put on people, and we really need to change the narrative on these things. It's one of the things that I love doing with my platform. I love educating on topics like this because if we don't say anything or we don't bring awareness to things like this, then things will just continue to be the same way. The kid in school that may not talk as much around new people, they're going to get labeled as shy. The person at work that is in the room and they're listening more than they're talking, and they're around people for the first time, new coworkers or whoever, they're going to get labeled as shy or labeled as quiet. Like, all of these things that happen in our society need to change. And so I'm going to continue to try to help bring awareness to it with whatever way that I can, whatever my level of influence in doing that. That's what I want to do, because I think that we really need to change the way we view a lot of these things. So I hope you found this to be helpful. Hope you found this to be enjoyable. Share this with somebody that you think needs to hear it too. If there's somebody that you know and they just don't know what it means to be shy, they don't really understand the true definition, and they just think, oh, anyone that's an introvert is shy, anyone that's an introvert is quiet. If they feel that way, you should share this episode with them, because we need to be able to educate people that need to know as well. All right. So with that said, hope you enjoyed the episode. And as always, there's only one you and there's only one life. So make it count. God bless.